Hello, everybody. This is Tom, your host for the Hidden Truths channel. How's everybody doing this evening? I hope you're doing well. Anyway, tonight's live stream is going to be about the Minnesota, I'll call it the Minnesota Massacre, the shooting that went on early this morning. And then we're going to talk about one of the stupidest things I ever heard by one of these January 14th No Kings protesters, okay? Okay. Morality before reality. It makes me understand their mind a little bit more, but that's what we're going to discuss tonight. So, anyway, if you're watching the replay, go about 3 minutes into it. I'm going to talk just a little bit about really to get people in, let notification get sent out and stuff, get a little bit of a crowd here. But anyway, I tell you what, these January 14th protest turned out to be, I think, a nothing burger. Okay. They didn't stop the military parade. They didn't really, these people got together on a Saturday and wasted their time. Why a legal American would sit there and protest to keep illegals in their country, I don't know. That just don't seem right. Seems like you're kind of, shooting yourself in the foot when you do that. Hey, how's it going? I appreciate you being here. We're going to get started with the subject here in about a minute. I just wait for a few people to show up. But the big thing about the Minnesota Massacre is, like I say, I moved out of Minnesota a couple of years ago. And believe me, it was getting bad. And Minnesota residents are getting really upset. Okay? And now you got Democrats against Democrats. Crazy time, but that is one messed up state. But give it about another 30 seconds, we'll start talking about the subject, get a few more people in here. YouTube just loves me so much. YouTube can't wait till I get back on make more content. This is the biggest little channel on social media. It's one that they just love the most. And will do anything they can to promote the channel. Okay. I'm Jeff Bezos' best buddy and stuff. But anyway, I tell you what, a lot of these people deal with stupid people, okay? So they think we're stupid. By the way, happy Sunday. Hey, everybody. I appreciate you being here. Sports highlights, huh? Big sports person. Anyway, let's get into the subject. The Minnesota Massacre. What went on there? What's behind it all? And as a Minnesota resident, what I found out today because of this shooting about how Minnesota is being operated. Okay. Number one, I moved out of, hey, how's it going, Kagan? I moved out of Minnesota because it was being taken over. Okay. I grew up in small farm town, Minnesota. I'm sure everybody's heard of the Little House on the Prairie, Walnut Grove, Minnesota. That's the area I grew up in, Springfield, Sleepy Eye, New Ulm, Mankato, all the towns they say. It wasn't filmed there, but anyway, I actually went to school in Walnut Grove for a year. And all these towns are being taken over, and Worthington would be considered one of them too. That's down in southwestern Minnesota. Anyway, all these towns are being taken over by Somalians. Okay? Even these county seats like Redwood. And I know a lot of Minnesota citizens that are pissed off about it. They won't move out. I had to finally get out. But they're all being taken over. I mean, Walnut Grove, a town of about 800 people. How many busloads of people do you have to bring into that city to take it over? Okay? Hello, Maury Story. Glad to see you tonight. Yeah, we're talking about the Minnesota Massacre. These Democrats shooting Democrats now, okay? But anyway, then they come to find out that this guy that did the shooting, he was in charge to make sure that these Africans got placed in Minnesota and their lives went by smoothly. Well, American Minnesota citizens' lives sucked. Okay? We all knew something was going on. I mean, Worthington, Tim Waltz was bragging about, how Worthington School has 50 different languages being spoken in it. Worthington is a town of about 6,000 people. So you got maybe 1,500 or maybe 1,800 kids in the school district, 50 languages, and they're just think that's something to celebrate. Then they come to find out this guy that did the shooting was in charge of making sure that Minnesota got all these people, foreigners got placed just in the right areas to take over. I tell you what, Minnesota's a freaking mess. A freaking mess. It sure ain't the same state I grew up in. Okay, I realize Minnesota's been Democrat for a long time, but I lived in a lot of conservative areas. The reflection on your glasses looks like war paint. Cool. I know that, but see, I need reading glasses. My lenses are all scratched, and I need to set up a studio. I need to get all my lighting. I understand that. Let me see if I can adjust it a little bit here. Nope. Anyway, something to look at, right? I'll get my system all set up straight. But that light's pretty bright over me, but I need the light. Anyway. So I know Minnesota screwed up. I mean, I was having nightmares before. I had to leave that state. I was having nightmares worse than my Marine Corps nightmares being there. Like I was always trapped trying to escape from a town or something. I mean, I know what it's like to live in a communist system now. And having to go through the George Floyd riots and stuff, hoping that your house don't get burnt down by some people that want to come, stupid bug, that want to come through your town and down your streets and start problems. But anyway, now we got this. Okay, the history of this guy sounds a little shaky, okay? You know, we're not getting all the facts yet, but 5 years that's 7-Eleven store manager. And then he goes into the CEO of this NGO, something that, you know, whatever. So he didn't get his funding. You know, USAID went down. None of them worked. Yeah. See, the thing in Somalia, they're taking over a lot of the social services. Older people that are on Medicare and Social Security, they got to deal with these people. And they're sick of it. Because they say the first thing, these Somalians don't care about us. And like I say, what I experienced up there, it's just being taken over. Taken the complete over. But now you got Democrats shooting Democrats because the money flow stopped. There's probably something a little bit more into this, like maybe embezzlement. Who the hell knows? But the one senator voted against illegal adults getting Medicaid, medical assistance. What the hell's wrong with that? I don't think the kids should get it either. You're illegal, you don't deserve any type of social services. But anyway, so Minnesota's having some serious problems. You know, and then Tim Walz strokes a fire, gets up there on stage, talks like a big guy, a tough guy, about confrontation, make sure you get, you know, kind of like Maxine Waters, make sure you get in their face type of shit. That's what we're dealing with. You know, if he come up to Nebraska where he grew up, let's just say people have stories about him. You know, he's not a well-liked person. By the way, Tim Walz has destroyed that state the whole system in that state. I mean, when a Minnesota residents start feeling like a foreigner in their own state, like I say, it wasn't the state I grew up in, and I had to get out of there. Okay, I go to Plum Creek Park in Walnut Grove, Minnesota, where I've been going for well over 50 years, and let's just say it's not the same. Walnut Grove is not the same little town as it was. Now the government housing, all the Americans were kicked out of it, and these people were moved in, and they all got these. Let's just say you can tell who lives there by the vehicles that are parked on the curb and stuff. But anyway, then this guy that did the shooting, he was part of the deal that was flooding Minnesota with these and making sure their lives were great. All this money that we spend, the government spends on all these stupid projects that hurt American citizens. I understand why we put up with it. By the way, this is going to expose a lot of stuff about illegal immigration, about, I mean, did you listen to I don't remember the agency he belonged to, but they got all these agencies hidden, these other agencies and stuff. It just hiding the size of the government. Okay. But why does our Minnesota government have an office where you help illegals come into the state? See, I had to move out of there because of that. It pisses me off. Governor Tim Walz needs to be charged. And thank God him and Kamala Harris didn't win the election. God only knows where we'd be. Well, it'd be a lot worse than it is now. And I realize that's really hard to believe. So anyway, but I'm so glad I got out of that stupid state. So glad. But this is one of the reasons that these Democrats are killing Democrats now. Remember, if you disagree with the way the flow's going, if you try to sit there and stall yourself in the stream or go the opposite way, they're after you right away. But I heard something today from a protester, January No Kings protest, that explains a lot about these people's mindset, their mentality, their logic, okay? When they said morality over reality, okay? How can you think that? I mean, it's great to be moral. But if you're going to sit there and live in an alternate reality where morality can be different too, I mean, you're basically saying we don't live in reality. We live in our own reality. You know, the one where men can have babies and you can change your sex. And good is bad or bad is good. That type of stuff. Is this the reality they're talking about? I mean, the metaverse, you know, they all get into their little fake universes and stuff. Or maybe it's got something to do with too many pharmaceuticals that are going around. You know, it's amazing. All these people that seem to have mental issues, like they're on antidepressants and antipsychotics, you know, they're really good customers of the pharmaceutical companies, seem to be having all these protests, weird thoughts. Yeah, I just say that could be part of it. Anyway, nothing like coming home to a warm beer and a cold wife. I never heard that one before. That one's a good one. I don't know. I've been divorced 3 times. I've given up on that. I got too many things I want to do in this life before I die, and I'm not going to have a woman telling me I can't do it. Can you show me your toes? Yeah, whatever. That's a silliness that comes in. I don't care. Warm beer, a cold wife. Well, what the hell would you do if you had a cold 12-pack in a fridge and a hot wife and a wife that was warmed up when you got home? What would you have first, the beer or the wife? Anyway, it's pretty cool. I like that one. Anyway, so you gotta laugh in this world. You know, if I were ever to start making money on YouTube and social media, this is a portable TV station right in my phone. I got so many plans that I like to do. Like I said, I'd like to sit there and start a new Red Green show, something like that, make people laugh. Well, I am saying hi, but I don't. All 118 Duke 3. Hi, how you doing? Appreciate you being here. You know, that's the one thing on my channel. I'll never ask for money, donations. I don't sell nothing. If I get big enough, the advertisers, if you want to support the channel, best way to support the channel is hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe and that notification bell, and share out the videos. Get the word spreading, okay? Because we got a lot of stuff coming down. I tell you what, I like it. The Life of Camo. Hi. Anyway, the Life of Camo. Does that mean you're a military dude like me? I tell you what, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I wore camouflage still for a couple of years after I got out before I started wearing normal civilian clothes again. Well, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. Yeah. Anyway, getting back on this morality over reality. Now, you just dive into it. From the surface, it sounds morality. You bring that up. That sounds right. But then above reality, how can you live a life where you're not dealing with reality? Now I understand these people, why they're so confused. Why they get so angry when you tell them the truth, because you're forcing reality on these people. And they don't want to hear reality. It upsets them. Okay? It's like, a health teacher, if they want to teach health in 4th grade like we used to have it, but you got kids in your class that think they're furries, well, you can't teach health class now because you don't want to upset them, right? This is the craziness we're dealing with in today's world. Anyway, facts over feelings. Yeah. We can't run the world on emotions. I mean, you talk about a warm beer and a cold wife. I've been married before. I know what dealing like with an emotional wife is. Postpartum and stuff, okay? But facts have to rule. I mean, we can't get over facts. And this is what when they say morality over reality. So you're sitting there saying, you're basically creating your own morality where, minor attractive person is okay. Right? Where all this stuff that we're supposed to accept socially that's been shoved down our throat, we're supposed to accept, right? I mean, they think they're smart when they say this stuff. Do you fart? The chosen one. I tell you what, I'm in a good mood today. Usually I would sit there and go off and say, hey, people, the thing is, if you see a message get deleted, that's because Google's in here. I don't have moderators or nothing. I don't delete. So just if you say something too stupid, it's going to bring Google in, and they'll start kicking you off. So anyway, I don't censor people, okay? I don't censor people at all. I don't care what you have to say. I'll listen to it. I'm thick-skinned. We can't get to know each other if we're not going to communicate with each other. So, but this morality above reality. We all have to live in reality. I have to live in reality every day. I'm not allowed to live in some fantasy world, okay? And I think a lot of that has to do is Maury's story, they just deleted your message. So Google is in here, guys. So watch what you say. I mean, this is what happens when you start getting 11,000 views in an hour and 3,000 comments. Now they cut me down to nothing, and they're still in here. I don't know why Google is so afraid of me. Nobody watches me. Well, they don't no more because the algorithm's in charge. Because we're dealing with a different reality. The reality that sits there and tells people the truth, we can't deal with that type of reality. But to hear that, and to somebody who says that thinks they're so intelligent by saying that. I'm so moral. My morals are so high that I don't even have to deal with reality. And these people wonder why they have mental issues when reality comes and slaps them in the face, knocks on their door and says, hey, guess what? I'm reality. I'm here. And that's what my channel does. That's why I'm shadow banned, censored, silenced, because I did have a channel that was canceled. 2 channels that were canceled because I had 2 channels on that email address. They canceled the email address. Google, hey, we don't want to hear what you have to say, but that's okay. The day's coming when all these so-called untouchable people will be held accountable for what the damage they did to this country and the American people. They will be held accountable. And let's hear him say, well, the algorithm was doing it. We couldn't stop it. Anyway, so they're dealing with their reality, okay? You know, the reality that Blue Origin, where it sends those 6 women up to space, where if they actually did have the flight, the only thing they were qualified to do was scream. You know, when the space shuttle when NASA sends something up, or China or Russia or whatever, the first thing and the last thing, you hear them screaming as they're going up and screaming as they're landing, right? I'm with you. Good night. Hey, have a good night, Maury Story. But anyway, this morality. What is their morality? It's not the same as mine. It's not the same that I was brought in. I believe it's pharmaceutical-induced reality. Well, the rest of us all got to live in the real reality. What a day out there in California. I didn't even watch. Because it's just, like I say, it's like watching wars at another country. I mean, you don't even see the American flag. At least when they're having pro-democracy protests in another country, at least see the American flag, right? And this is all about the LGBTQA plus people, I guess, joined them, the illegal aliens, BLM, Antifa. Let's see, have I named a non-terrorist organization yet? All I know is I did my live stream this morning is I'm getting sick and tired of seeing these cops being abused, them sitting there lining up, throwing rocks like the cops got to drive the gauntlet every single time they go to arrest somebody. This shit's got to stop. This shit's got to completely stop. These people don't have free reign to sit there and come in this country illegally and then break every law that they feel is necessary to express their feelings because they have no emotional control. You know, you get in front of my truck, I ain't stopping. If you want to pull get in front of a truck that weighs over 7,000 pounds and think you're going to stop it, no. Because I ain't stopping. I ain't slowing down or nothing. I ain't stupid. If you're stupid enough to get in front of a moving vehicle, well, you're brain dead anyway, so we might as well just go the rest of the goddamn way. And people need to start thinking that way. There's so many more law-abiding citizens. I'll body slam Hulk Hogan. Yeah, I remember Rocky 3 when Sylvester Stallone picked him up and body slammed him. But anybody who gets in front of a car, okay, that's what you do. And people, there's a lot of good people in LA and all these cities that this is happening to. Maybe the people, what would scare them most instead of the cops and the military won't scare them, then the citizens of the city get together and scare the living piss out of them. But then again, if Donald Trump would sit there and get on TV and say, hey, everybody, you American citizens, you want to make some extra money? I am authorizing all American citizens to be bounty hunters, and there's a $1,000 bounty on every illegal immigrant. Boy, I could get rich. And, there's lots of people that take advantage of that. We could clean up our country, and 90% of them within the first 2 days would go back by themselves. See, that's the way we could solve the problem without a shot being fired or nothing. Let the American people help out, okay? We have natural disasters that the government can't help us out with at all, right? So the people get together and help each other out. They solve the problem. Like with the hurricane in eastern North Carolina or western North Carolina and Tennessee and South Carolina. The government didn't do nothing. It was the people that banded together. So why can't we band together and take our country back? Why do we need their permission? Why do we need their permission to show up with their Second Amendment right and put an end to this shit? But I guess you're not going to have that problem in Florida, because in Florida, you'd step in front of somebody's car, they'll run you the hell over. You're allowed to run them over. You're allowed to protect yourself, and the sheriff's department's going to do the beat down if you don't peacefully protest. Imagine, Florida's not having any problems. God, imagine how that works. If Florida doesn't have gun laws like Chicago, it's amazing Chicago has a bunch of deaths. God, it's amazing how that works, but you can't get a liberal to think that way. People are allowed to defend themselves and have the ability to defend themselves. Anybody that wants to do bad upon somebody is going to think twice about it. But if you know that your victim can't defend themselves, some bad dude's going to do whatever they want. Anyway, but liberals will never figure that out. Morality above reality. So does that morality mean you're against the Second Amendment because in your reality, guns kill people and they're the worst thing ever, and the only thing that should have it is the cops and the government, and then you'll be the safest thing in the world? Is that your moral stance on that? God, they're admitting that they don't even live in the real world, that they made this alternate universe and whatever it is. Hey, I believe this today. I believe that. And they just... This is why the normal, average, logically thinking person can't understand it, but now I do. We try to sit there and rationalize or try to understand their actions by the reality we live in. Well, now to come to find out that they're basing their decisions on a reality that doesn't even exist. They're trying to create their own fantasies and live in them. Now, maybe that has something to do with all these video games kids are playing too. I don't know. But like I say, I'm sure the metaverse, people buying property in a ones and zeros simulated area, crazy time. And the money they were paying was absolutely nuts too. But, you can't have morality, okay? If you want to live in an alternate reality, okay, it's not going to work because you got to be around functioning adults. You got to be able to function as an adult. And you can't sound like you're crazy. I mean, Twilight Zone, perfect example. They want me to come into their reality, okay? And in the Twilight Zone episodes, when somebody was taken out of the normal reality and put into a different reality, which they were the ones that everybody thought was crazy and they're losing their minds. The basic theme behind Twilight Zone. Well, this is what these people want us to do. And then, when you react in a way that they don't quite understand, there's something wrong with you. But, I'm not going to try to live in their reality, be absolutely crazy and be miserable. Okay? The Democrats are no longer in office. Okay? There's no longer going to be a pride flag flying at the White House on Easter. Okay? We don't have to listen that Jesus was non-gender and shit like that. Their reality. It's hard to deal with, but now I understand. Like I say, now I understand. They feel they got the moral high ground. They feel that their reality is more believable. While the rest of us sit here and live in, the reality that Albert Einstein did. Okay? The one where you gotta become something. It's up to you to become something. It's not up to your neighbor to pay your way and stuff. That you can't spend your way into prosperity. Boy, I wish our government would learn that one. And believe me, our government takes advantage of this Twilight Zone alternate reality as much as they can too. Let's not even get into how the schools are trying to just warp kids' minds. Anyway, that's all I got for tonight. But yeah, the Minnesota thing, yeah. First-hand experience in that stupid-ass state. My childhood state, where I lived until I went into the Marine Corps. I lived in Minnesota and went in the Marine Corps and saw the whole world. That was my first experience leaving Minnesota, was the Marine Corps. It sure changed. It sure changed. Anyway, but now we got Democrats fighting Democrats because They can't even get along with each other. So how the hell is a conservative supposed to sit there and please them when they can't even please themselves? Okay. Anyway, I think there's more to it than just because this lady didn't vote for illegal adults to have medical care. Now, I'm sure that pissed them off. There's just something deeper than that, okay? It's just all too simple. All too simple. And I don't buy it for a second, okay? That's one thing we're never going to hear out of any government is the damn truth. Okay, we'll hear a lot of disinformation protecting the truth, but we're not going to hear the truth. So anyway, appreciate everybody being here. You too, Google. Appreciate you being here, okay? I appreciate you slamming my channel down. I really appreciate you making it harder on me, but they're just going to make me stronger in the long run. See, the one thing you morons in Google don't understand is some people don't walk away from a challenge. You can't scare me away. And you got to have a good reason to cancel my channel, don't you? Anyway, so it's just interesting watching my analytics and stuff, and they think they got me fooled. Sorry, I got an education. I can read data and understand it. And hopefully one day I can bring it to a court to show other people so they understand. Anyway, tomorrow morning I'll be probably going another live stream. Like I say, we got a lot of stuff happening. This morning my live stream, I didn't know what tonight's live stream was going to be because I had 12 hours before it. And God knows what we were going to find out. We found out, huh? The Minnesota Massacre. There's nothing a liberal touches that doesn't fall apart. There's nothing a liberal touches that a conservative doesn't have to come behind them and fix and repair the problem they caused. Anyway, that's all I got for this evening. This is Tom with Hidden Truths. I'm out.